Hello there, you beautiful people. My name is Willow, and welcome back to Supreme Commander Forged Alliance Forever for another 5v5 cast on Map Generator. Hope you all are ready for a long one. This is going to be an amazing match for all. And let's go ahead and get into introducing our players with Team 1 in the top and Team 2 in the bottom. But before we do, please go direct your attention down to the buttons down below. Like, comment, subscribe, bell, join, super thanks. I gotta have so many calls to action now because YouTube keeps adding buttons down there, and I'm going to direct your attention to them every time. If you don't know what super thanks is, it's a bit like a super chat from the YouTube streams. You can donate a little bit of money and you get your comment highlighted with a dollar amount, and you show some support for the channel. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into introducing our players, starting with the pink UEF going first land by the name of Ferv on this western flank for Team 1. Up to the north of him, in what I will probably regard as the kind of air position, because he's the furthest back, his name is Literal. He is a green Aeon, and he is gone first to land. Then moving on to the east of him, we have ourselves a blue Seraphim going first land, a beautiful, beautiful man as he hosts games for all rating levels at all the time, and his name is, of course, Fong. Then, of course, to the east of him, we have the best color, worst faction, a Cyan Seraphim going first land by the name of Stoned Elf. And then, last but not least, for Team 1, we have a Maroon Seraphim, lots of Seraphim for Team 1, very disgraceful, going first land by the name of Nova Enon. And that's going to be all of Team 1. Moving on to Team 2, we'll go west to east again with the dark green UEF going first land by the name of Lorem Ipsum. And he is rocking this western flank as we move to the east and see ourselves a pink Seraphim who has gone the wrong faction by multiple accounts, because his name is Soul Ripper 77. He's starting first land and he can't build Soul Rippers because he picked the wrong faction. So weird. Why would he do that? As we move to the east to see the best faction, and in its standard color of green, the Aeon player going first land by the name of Amygdala. And then we can move on to the east of him, the air position, as I'm going to call it yet again, the orange Seraphim going first land by the name of Megameon. And he is rocking this backwards position. And then last but not least for the entire game, we have ourselves a red Aeon best faction finishing off strong with a player by the name of Noob Dragon going first land. And with that, we have all of the players introduced. We have the map 13,000 reclaim. These players are going to suck it up. The middle, kind of an exclusion zone. Pathfinding is going to make fighting in the middle very difficult. So we're going to see these large battles being taken place on the western and eastern flank, if I had to predict it. And there are a lot of mass extractors. We have a rating range from 1100 all the way up to 1600. So we're going to see some really average level play here, and going to have to keep an eye on everything going on. Of course, it being a 5v5 means we're going to miss some stuff. And the first thing I want to talk about is Ferv over here going with T2 very early. A sub 5-minute T2 is what he's on course for. And if he does manage it, it's going to be a very powerful upgrade over here. As long as he has the mass, which he should relatively soon, he's going to be picking up a lot of mass extractors. He could build a decent bank of triads and kind of lock Lorem Ipsum out from fighting on this western flank. And both of them being UEF means we don't have to worry about one fire base being stronger than the other. Whereas we have Soul Ripper moving over to this western flank to try and place pressure on him. Some Mech Marines out over here might meet a bloody demise at the hands of that beefy Seraphim comm. And on the eastern side, we have a lot of units now pouring out of the base of Noob Dragon. Noob Dragon going for a very heavy spam tactic, whereas his opponent, Nova Enon, is going for a T2 upgrade, so gonna see some forward defenses out of him. And we have Stoned Elf moving over to this eastern flank with his comm as well, so the comms going about where you expect them. We have the comm of Fong going towards these 4 core mass extractors, or this core mass extractor expansion, I guess is what I should call it. and kind of going towards this middle area. As I said, pathfinding is going to make this difficult, but you can still get small raiding bands of units through, so probably going to need to set up some minimalist defenses on both sides just to make sure nothing too spicy comes through here. Could also, in the late game, see maybe an experimental work its way through this maze. We do have a T1 bomber out from... Oh, that was nasty. Amygdala getting 6 kills, 5 of which were engineers that were just sitting there doing automatic reclaim out from Stoned Elf. Going to be very painful. There's some interceptors in the area. Don't know if they're going to be targeted onto this Shimmer in time. The Shimmer probably wants to run away. Going to be maybe going for a bomb on those engineers that just got dropped, but no, it does go down. So very spicy early bomber out from Amygdala, getting him a lot of value there. On the eastern side, Noob Dragon still expanding about as fast as you'd expect. And on this side here in the middle, Ferv getting that first upgrade in the game. He's finished up T2, but doesn't seem like he's comfortable with his economy just yet to be building up all of those possible, all of the possible defenses. He's a little bit light on units, but Lorem Ipsum not really heavy on units himself and going for T2 at the moment. It's paused, so ETA infinite. And over here to the east, Amygdala walking forward to this kind of area, has himself some factories going up. Aurora's engaging with Thumbs on the far eastern flank. We have little interceptor battles, but there's no really attacking air units, so they are of little consequence, at least for the moment. Could lead to something bigger soon. Damage and range now on the way for Ferv. I do like getting T2 before damage and range, because it makes getting damage and range so much faster. He's going for a very beefy assault comm from the looks of it. As we have had a relatively quiet opening into this game, 7 minutes in, no major battles taking place yet, but as these players build up their power and build up their ability to punch each other in the face real hard, we're going to be able to see larger and larger battles start taking place. I think a big point of contention over here is going to be Noob Dragon. He's getting range on that comm. Would not be surprised to see speed or sensors after that. And he will have the opportunity to get aggressive very soon with those units. A bomber comes out, kills off maybe one unit before falling away. Sorry if you hear me sniffling at any point in this cast. Allergies still destroying me. Never had them before this year, but now that I have them, they come in thick and they come in strong. I take a bunch of anti-allergy medication about 30 minutes before each cast now, just so I can speak for an hour or so without dying. Aurora's getting some good damage down over here for Noob Dragon. Manages to kill off a factory and a hydrocarbon. Gonna be happy with that as he retreats back towards the safety of his comm and his production. A bit of a harassment party out from Fong, managing to pick up a couple of mass extractors. That's going to be of little consequence. He's going to slow down the economy of Noob Dragon very slightly, but he has plenty of engineers to just send out there and re-expand. In the western side, not as much action going on, as we don't have the same aggressive use of units coming out from Ferv, who is now opting to set up his first triad. T2, 50% done for Lorem Ipsum. Speed and range, about 30% done now for Soul Ripper. Speed now on the way after that range upgrade finished for Noob Dragon. And speed and range now on the way for Stoned Elf. These gonna finish up around the same time, so we're gonna have a gun comm on each flank, but we have T2 critically finished up now for Nova Anon. I don't know how to say his name. Nova. And they have a T2 PD out on the field, and now we're working on a T2 Pigeon and a forward T2 radar. Always good to get that intelligence online and running, because knowledge is power. I have a Lamborghini too, and I value my bookshelf way more. As Nano Repair now on the way for Stoned Elf, going for that beefy Seraphim comm that we all know and hate. Nobody enjoys those filthy Seraphim 52,000 HP horrible comms. If you build it, you are a virgin to the chrono dampener chads of the world. Roving bands of interceptors. There have been a decent number of air fights. Seems like airplay is going to feature heavily, as both sides have multiple players really investing into having a early air force, and we might see that transition into a lot of players with T3 air. It's a little bit hard to extrapolate things, just trying to give you ideas of what is to come, as we have had a very slow first 10 minutes. The gun comm of Noob Dragon forcing Nova back, killing off that hard-built radar. May even be able to pick up this T2 Pigeon. If he does, that will be huge. Sure, the reclaim goes to his opponent, but the Pigeon itself, not an inexpensive or time... It's a very time-intensive thing to build at this stage of the game. Another radar over here, going down to the gun comm of Noob Dragon. Various fighting going on. That T2PD taking an attritional toll on the forces of Noob Dragon. Although he seems to have more than enough to spare, seeming to have more units than everybody else on the field, except for maybe Stoned Elf. It does seem as though the 2v1 situation on both sides of the map is starting to mount for pressure, as the kind of secondary player on each flank, being Stoned Elf and Soul Ripper, are starting to gain a little bit of not necessarily attritional, but territorial advantage, as their units are just a bit overwhelming and unassailable at the moment. On the eastern side, we can see that our green Aeon helping the red one, Amygdala, showing up with a decent band of T1 units to try and keep Stoned Elf in his place. He's been working on this nano repair upgrade for a very, very long time. I think that may have been a little bit of an overreach. He just can't afford it. Huge mass stall for Stoned Elf. The comm of Noob Dragon, up to 1 rank of veterancy, going to be very quickly farming a second if these units out from Nova Anon don't manage to stop him. He's very close to that 2nd rank of veterancy, going to be very happy with the trades he's taken with those comms. On the western side, we're seeing a bit more of a turtley approach out of the solo player. We have Ferv setting up a large triad defense to protect himself from the units of Lorem and trying to use his units on himself to protect against Soul Ripper. He does have that gun comm, so he can kind of stand and fight here. Might even want to start throwing up some T1 PD very quickly. You can get up 1 or 2 and then use the gun comm with overcharges to get some decent damage done. Although it might end up with Soul Ripper and Lorem Ipsum just pushing him off this position. It's looking very dicey for the pink UEF as these units come in and just steamroll over his forward position. The triad's going to go down. Each triad going to pick up a few kills before it does. As we see Soul Ripper and Lorem Ipsum not reigning victorious, as they are going to be a bit bogged down now. They've run out of the critical mass of units, and it now seems as though Ferv with the gun comm and his own reinforcing units coming from these 4 factories very close nearby will be able to start pushing back Soul Ripper, who's taken a lot of damage on that comm. Might want to consider being a bit more careful. He does have a rank of veterancy, and he is about to reach a 2nd one. But he's on half health versus Ferv's basically full health comm, which is about to get a rank of veterancy itself. Seems as though Soul Ripper determined to take out this 3 mass point position. Whereas on the eastern side, Nano Repair finally finishing up for Stoned Elf as he gets T2 on the comm as well. A very beefy comm set up for him. And we have a bit of stagnation now on this eastern flank. Neither side feeling they have a overwhelming advantage, although Stoned Elf with that new and improved beefy comm might be trying to do something with all of these forces over here. Amygdala had to reroute some forces to deal with some harassing units out from Fong, including an Ilshiva in the middle, so his forces are greatly diminished, and his ability to help protect this kind of open area that Stoned Elf is trying to abuse right now is being diminished rapidly. Ferv built another triad over here to try and hold off Soul Ripper. I really think he could use some T1 PD, although he is making a very decent defense himself. He's been fighting 2 players. Of course, Lorem Ipsum not featuring quite as heavily. Did get up a tactical missile launcher, and we can see that start to produce some value if he micros it properly, although I think he's having some mass struggles. That's loading very, very slowly. The comm of Fong being dropped over to the west with an Aeon transport of all things. Transport probably gifted over by Literal. Actually kind of had to be gifted over by Literal to try and help out Ferv. Ferv really needs to try and hold on to these forward factories. They are the only thing keeping this flank from entirely collapsing. That is the majority of the land production on this flank. He does have a T2 factory finished up, and he's rushing to T3. He's just trying to hold off for enough time for Titans. Because on the eastern side, Stoned Elf showing up with his gun comm. He's gotten his first kill, and there are many to follow as he starts throwing shots into this Aurora force. Only 2 shots to kill off each Aurora. Unfortunate reality of the Aurora is they pay dearly for that range advantage, having to live with such a low HP amount of 155 versus the standard 280 to 300 HP. I guess 250 probably for Cybern units. I don't think there's a single Cybern unit in this game for me to check the health of a Mantis. I'm sure it's lower than the Thom and the Pillar, but it also is faster. Over here to the west, Fong and Ferv trying to push off Soul Ripper. Soul Ripper could be in a spot of bother. He has 2 gun comms that can really bear down on his position. That T3 factory upgrade, 88% complete and rising. Gonna see T3 very, very quickly. We have T3, though, already finished up for the pink Seraphim Soul Ripper. We also have T3 finished up now for Amygdala, who's going to start putting Harbingers out into the world. T2 Air finished up for Noob Dragon, not going for T2 Land. An interesting call, as Ilshivas show up from both Nova and Stoned Elf on this eastern flank. Noob Dragon gonna be hard pressed to hold this. He is trying to throw up some Oblivion point defenses. Although Harbingers coming out from Amygdala could really lower the pressure. These units I was talking about, small kind of tactical groups of raiding teams from Fong, he's really been abusing them. He's really been taking the time to traverse with groups of 5 to 10 units through these middle areas and trying to apply pressure onto both Amygdala and Soul Ripper. And with his comm over here, he's forced Soul Ripper back, and this western flank is a bit more difficult to hold. Noob Dragon under heavy assault via the comm of Stoned Elf and all of these Zooies. Needs to keep that comm moving if he wants to even have a small chance of survival, and he needs to get his units back and helping him, but he can't, as there's a run by Stoned Elf. Stoned Elf playing a very beautiful pressure game here. Noob Dragon stops for even a moment. He does get a rank of veterancy, but if he stops for even a moment, it could spell his doom, as these Zooies will be able to inflict massive damage in a very short amount of time. And Noob Dragon is going to go down to the Zooie fire out from Stoned Elf. And the Ilshivas coming from the north to help from Nova. He didn't have to sacrifice any units, and he's now going to be able to steamroll through this position. Amygdala gets the base. Luckily for Amygdala, he has the same technology. He should unpause these factories. A T2 land HQ about to finish up here. Sure, it's not ideal since you already have a T3 HQ, but you're going to want those T3 units on the field as very quickly to be able to hold off all of these Ilshivas that are now going to be pouring out from the Cyan and Maroon Aeon, or Seraphim up at the north. With our first ejection here around 16.5 minutes. Things not looking so well for the southern team. Let's go ahead and look at the economies of the teams respectively. Team 2 ahead by well over 100 mass a second. So Team 2 doing very well economically, despite the pressure loss by losing their commander over there. Literal sitting in a very good economic position, whereas Amygdala on the other team doing well. So the 2 remaining Aeon players, very big powerhouses in this game. Literal starting to work on what would appear to be a air grid. And as we look at the other important economic measurement, Ferv doing very well on Reclaim. Overall Reclaim going in advantage of Team 1, but they're down nearly 50,000 generated mass. Team 2 down massively economically, or ahead massively economically is Team 2. They're not down at all, but they are losing map control and map presence, as over here to the west we have Titans rolling onto the field. Titans not going to deal with this Autumn very well, but that's only one Autumn, and we have Ilshivas here to try and help deal with that. The Soul Ripper's comm going to be critical in this defense. Does seem as though they will hold, as over to the west, a large force out from Lorem Ipsum, pushing forward this forward 3 mass extractor area, unable to be held by Ferv. Every time he gets a stronghold kind of set up here, he immediately has it crumble before him. We didn't really get a chance to check. The Aloha managed to kill off what seems to be 1 T2 mechs, has 2,000 mass killed and in 1 kill. Maybe it wasn't T2 mechs, maybe it was something else. Although that would be a T2 mechs wreck right there. Over here to the east, Ilsheva is pushing forward, but they run into Harbingers, and that's going to be a hard ask for these Ilshevas to deal with. The Harbingers can actually use shield micro to their advantage. You could pull this Harbinger back right now since it's lost its shield. Wants to keep all of the Harbingers firing though. It's unfortunate, but you do need to keep all of those in range if you want to fight Ilshevas. Ilsheva's still incredibly mass efficient at this stage where you're only looking at a handful of T3 units. Amygdala setting himself up for a strong game so far. He does have this double base, and he is starting to exert pressure and gain some territory back. Stoned Elf setting up a beefy fire base to try and hold off this Harbinger assault, and that in combination with that comm, I believe will be more than enough. As over here on the western side, it seems as though Fong and Ferv, the 2 F sounds, are going to be able to push back the aggression that came out momentarily from Lorem and Soul Ripper. Sniper bot on the field, going to do very well at cleaning up those Titans. Takes 1 down, as we saw. And overall, the map state looking still relatively even. It would give a small territorial advantage over to Team 1. But the economic advantage is still huge. Let's go ahead and check in on the air numbers. The main players with the ASF are going to be Megamion, who has 36, and he's massively behind the economy of Literal, but ahead on the ASF as Literal only has 17. We have a Chicken now 73% complete for Soul Ripper. That's going to be the first experimental on the field, I believe. A GC just now starting up for Amygdala. You have anything similar going on in the bases of Team 1. They are, of course, behind economically. A Chicken queued up now for Stoned Elf. Don't see a GC or anything like that spicy coming out from Literal, who is in the best economic position for Team 1. Whereas Amygdala going for that GC on this eastern flank. So we have an experimental for each side building, or for each flank building on Team 2. Team 1, they do have at least 1 queued up. Although I don't see how that will result in anything massive as of this given time frame. Titans now on the field for Lorem Ipsum as well. Gonna be happy with that. A band of T3 and T2 units showing up now in the middle for Fong. I think it's becoming a little bit less cost effective every time he does this. The defenses keep getting stronger and thicker for Team 2, as they have been waging a defensive war for most of the game. This fire base a bit unassailable, but Amygdala with the correct assumption, or correct assessment, that he can kind of just walk around it. Walls being thrown up in every direction as is possible for Stoned Elf, trying to slow down the absolute blast furnace that is Amygdala's economy, as it just spits out T3 units without a care in the world. T1 PD going to be hastily thrown together for Stoned Elf in this forward point defense base, but I do not believe it will work out in their favor. That run by Fong, that tactical assault through the middle, going to be falling flat on its face as it runs into Harbingers, T1 PD, and a production center. Might be able to, if he's lucky, pick off a T2 mechs, but I don't even think he'll get that. This is just going to end up in a mass field that is most assuredly not in the hands of Team 1. Team 2 starting to gain territory yet again over here on this western side as Flapjacks prove their value. this fire base cleaned up. Amygdala happy with his assault, happy to gain that territory, and happy to maybe get access to that juicy reclaim field. 4,000 reclaim right here. That's a fifth of a GC. He's planning on building many of such units. Literal building up quite the air grid, whereas, well, I guess this is a decent air grid as well. A chicken now on the way from Mega Meon, and that is going to be like the third experimental finished before the first experimental of Team 1. I didn't mention it, but it did pop up, of course. The Soul Ripper chicken has been completed. That was probably a little bit confusing. The Soul Ripper chicken has been completed. Not the Soul Ripper has been completed. And Stoned Elf now in a fight with his comm against Harbingers. Very well suited to deal with these Harbingers. I think that Amygdala probably going to have to cut his losses and fall back, try and get as much reclaim as he can in the meantime. Might have been worthy of using the Harbingers to reclaim up that base very quickly. As we're seeing Amygdala's forces start to lose territory over here on the western side. Although on the eastern side, although on the western side, this chicken, there is just nothing in the area to deal with it. There's a chicken on the way for Fong, but it's only a third complete. That's a ways off. And with these sniper bots in tow, this chicken going to be a very deadly force to reckon with. Sniper bot's going to be very good at dealing with the things that the chicken does not want to. These Titans don't do very well against a chicken. On the eastern side, a GC about to finish up now for Amygdala. A chicken on the way and about to finish up for Nova, so that will be huge. But a chicken about to finish up as well for Mega Meon. We could see a large experimental push on both flanks for the southern team, as on the eastern side, Stoned Elf trying to re-establish this fire base. Ilshiva's being sacrificed to the Harbinger gods. Not very much T3 production at all coming from Stoned Elf. He does have a chicken on the way. The chicken over here on the western flank starting to push forward, starting to gain territory on Team 1. That comm of Ferv in a very difficult position. Chicken beelining towards it and taking out a ton of economy in its wake. Every time you see one of these mass extractors go down, it really hurts Ferv, who is currently sitting on just a few T2 mass extractors at 55 mass a second. He's living on a shoestring budget. Oh, he's given his mass extractors over to Fong. He's decided that he does not have the ability to compete in this match. Huge Air Force, though. Lots of T1 bombers and restorers now on this. A huge air engagement. I think Literal has the advantage here with ASF, and his air grid seems to be larger and more productive, as he just has more economy than his opponent by about 81 mass a second. Chicken goes down on the front line. The sniper bots might still be able to have some effect here, but that was huge for Team 1, able to get that huge reclaim in the chicken on their doorstep. Going to be very happy with that. Over on the eastern side, Stoned Elf and a chicken trying to fend against a massive Harbinger force. T3 Mobile Shield was assisting from Nova as he shows up with that chicken. The Harbingers here are going to have struggles. There might be enough here to fight the chicken, but not with that assault comm in tow. A GC was completed and is making its way over to this eastern side. On the western side, do we have anything? We have a chicken completed now for Fong, who's withdrawn his commander from the front lines. And these restorers causing endless pain for Lorem Ipsum's forward units. And Literal with the air control is being a very real problem for Team 2. Overall economy is Team 2 now up by 400 mass a second. They've gotten over 100,000 more mass this game, but they haven't been able to convert that into anything massive, having a horrible mass efficiency rating of 0.62. As we continue to watch these players duke it out. I guess now, with that air engagement, it's time to look at the ASF numbers. 59 for Team 2, whereas Team 1 sitting on 50. But that is a bit deceiving. As long as they engage with the Resors give a huge advantage in air fights. Double experimental on this eastern side is going to be a problem for Team 1. They do have another chicken that started, but it was never completed. So over here on the eastern side, the chicken GC could be huge. Although we've seen air stop an experimental push already, and over on the western side, a chicken out from Fong going to be an issue. Although, as far as solutions to a chicken goes, I feel 24 sniper bots can deal with a chicken. The intel, though, is horrid. Oh, it's horrid for Team 2. Where is the Omni? You're 28 minutes in. Somebody build it. Ah, that might be a reason for all this mass inefficiency. There's definitely an Omni completed, or at least multiple forward T2 radars completed for Team 1. But Team 2 kind of flying blind here. And with sniper bots, that's never a good idea. In fact, it's such a problem that this chicken might be able to just come into range. It does seem there is an Omni built now. Maybe he was just mass stalling. He doesn't know that's a chicken. You might be able to guess now you can know it's a chicken. But that chicken losing an insane amount of HP to blind sniper bots. Look at that HP. Just a second ago, that was full. Oh, but sniper bots going down in droves. If he had had proper intel, he would have been able to fight this off. But over here on this side, it's getting dire. As on the eastern side, the chicken for Mega Meon, where did it go? It's going over to the west. Whereas the GC is pushing north. This feels like a bit of a misprioritization of units. The chicken over here going to be walking into like 15 Percivals, and there's still sniper bots. Oh yeah, the Percivals just have to shoot that chicken one or two volleys. I think the chicken goes down. Maybe not though, with the parashield coming in. Percival's going to get close to killing it, maybe. Oh, losing all those sniper bots was brutal for Lorem Ipsum. On the eastern side, there's the GC fight that could be ensuing with that chicken. Does not seem as though it's destined to happen. Another GC is finished up now for Amygdala. And the air grids continue to grow as mass fabricator is now queued up for Mega Meon. The mass differential closing, earlier it was 400, now it's down to about 300. Although still a huge lead. Another chicken has now been completed for Soul Ripper, which means that they have the ebb and flow of combat, I don't know how to describe it, the tug of war going back and forth for this for the southern and east and northern team on the west is quite beautiful. And now it seems as though it's turn for Team 2 to be able to push forward and leave a juicy reclaim field for their opponents, because that seems to be what's happening over and over on that side. The reclaim really dictating that side of the match. Although this could be very dangerous out from Literal. Huge possibility of a strat snipe now looming over the heads of Team 2. Don't know if they know that exists, as they have had... Oh, they are more than aware of the massive amount of strat bombers. And it seems as though Mega Meon trying to shadow the side of the map that those strat bombers are on at any given time. Also a huge deterrence for walking forward with an experimental for Team 2. That was an experimental completed up by... who exactly? I don't know. It doesn't really matter at this point. There's experimentals everywhere. Air grid now going up for Lorem Ipsum. Amygdala really pulling his weight on the team. He's running these double bases, and he's running them well enough to fight off both Nova and Stoned Elf. He's playing a real blinder of a game right now. Does have to be a bit careful, though. He's fighting both Fong, Stoned Elf, and Nova intermittently. Fong still trying to abuse this central area, whereas Team 2 has just opted to largely ignore it. Sniper bots being heavily used by certain players, but others not opting for them. Seems as though now Amygdala has realized how effective sniper bots are being against him. The double experimental push over here to the east could be huge. Strategic launch detected, this time going for Amygdala, who has a anti-nuke, but it's not loaded. Is Amygdala gonna move? Amygdala is on an upgrade. I wonder what upgrade that could be. How is it that important? It's T3. He starts moving now, but it's gonna be too late. I believe he's gonna be boxed in by his engineers. You have to control K these engineers, Amygdala. As the nuke comes in, Amygdala's dead. He cannot get away at this point. The good news is it's full share, so all of his base and all of his units, he has so many GCs out on the field and everything, are going to be able to defend him, but a nuke out from Literal going to be taking out the other Aeon in this game. And that's going to be our second ejection, now leaving us in a 3v5. Team 2 losing players, still maintaining an economic advantage until just now, where Team 1 has surpassed them economically. A large experimental T3 land force push coming over here on the western side. A huge air fight brewing. All of these strat bombers shot down by mobile anti-air, it would seem, which is very nice for Megameon not having to commit to an air engagement there. The two chickens gonna go down simultaneously, but this force of Demolishers and Percival is going to be able to push forward. Needs to get away from the Ion Storm. Will do so. Might lose one Percival. Nope, just only taken down to 200 HP. And there is nothing on the ground to stop this. As long as Megameon can provide a decent amount of air coverage here and stop this from just being a one-sided blast through the ground forces by Literal, this could be huge. I think he needs to commit right now. There's a ton of Cougars on the field, which will most likely be targeted down. The air engagement, oh, that first engagement looking very good for Literal, but the turn could be very good for Megameon as we see huge fights erupt. Seems as though Megameon's still strong in this fight, but some interceptors or some ASF showing up from Fong, I believe. Or no, those were just more from Literal going to be helping him out. The air engagement going poorly for Megameon, but he is managing to, at the very least, cause some level of protection for his ground forces being provided by Lorem Ipsum, who's taking down the T3 HQ of Ferv. Ferv now desperately lacking in base and structures. Demolishers taking out economy slowly. These Cougars getting a ton of veterancy. Gotta love seeing mass Cougar batteries. And this absolute wreckage and devastation left behind by this large assault. And on the eastern side, something similar can be said as these two chickens have managed to push through all of the experimentals and all of these forces produced by Megameon and Amygdala respectively. Amygdala going down means that this side seemingly just collapsed out of nowhere. Double chickens going to be making their way down to the south towards Megameon's comm. Mass flare trying to be used to some effect, but just seemingly unable to make it work. Very difficult to use T1 units against experimentals and T3 units. I guess it's not difficult to use it, it's difficult to find success doing so. Using them is just as easy as using any other unit. Targeting the anti-air instead of the mexes here is a strange call out from Lorem Ipsum. Retargets onto the only, probably the only T3 mex remaining for Ferv, who has just been completely dismantled this game. The two chickens in the south, both relatively healthy enough to get some real value. It does seem as though Megameon's throwing up a lot of T2PD, trying to help defend against this. And it seems as though the chicken is gonna make it into the base. The question is, how much damage will it do? T3 Mex is going down over here now for Megameon to the other chicken. Man, stumbling over my words today. Sorry for the lack of words there, was blowing my nose. The chicken does get into the base and is dealing horrible, horrible damage. It takes out a large majority of the air grid and is gonna die. The SMD critically survives, but there's another chicken on the way which could focus down that SMD. It's not gonna have a ton of time. Gonna get rid of more power generators. The Ion Storm, also a possible way of killing off that SMD, and if the SMD goes down, it could be brutal. Second chicken walking in, losing HP rapidly. And that is going to be quite huge as the chicken comes in. It's not going to get the SMD. So that strategic launch detected. Don't know where it went, but if it was going for the main base of Megameon, it's going to be unsuccessful as a huge wave of Natha fighter bombers coming in to try and deal with the comm of Megameon, assumedly, or maybe get rid of that SMD. This could be huge. Are there any ASF remaining now for Megameon? I do not believe there are. The Nathas come in. They seemingly are targeted onto that comm, which is right next to a P-Gen. Shield flickers on at the perfect time to absorb so much damage. That comm is a beefy comm. I believe it has nano. Are they going to be able to get that power generator? The power generator does go down, but with advanced nano, it would seem that comm is more than able to tank the damage. As over on the western side, haven't spoken about it much. Sorry for the intermittent pauses. My allergies are just destroying me right now, and constantly having to blow my nose as my face is just dripping with snot. It's very unpleasant. I suffer for you all. Strategic launch detect. Where did the anti-nuke go down to? The anti-nuke went down to something. I didn't even get to see it. I don't think Megameon's realized it's gone down, but the nuke is coming out. Earlier, I don't know what the earlier nuke was targeted on. It probably took something down. As Megameon... Oh, wait, no, this nuke is going here. Oh, that's a critical mistake. That nuke could have just gone straight into the base of Megameon and taken him out. And Team 2 is in a desperate position. I mean, it is a 3v5, but it's feeling more like a 2v5 as Megameon is just collapsing under the face of this pressure. A chicken out from Soul Ripper getting into the main base, and it doesn't even matter if it dies here. The Ion Storm guaranteed. There's not enough shielding. The Ion Storm guarantees death of this entire air grid. It's just walking the chicken in full stop, going for as much structural damage as possible. He knows it doesn't get out, but he also knows he can get a ton of damage done. The HQ, I believe, even going down in that trade of structures. And that is going to be brutal for Team 1. They're going to lose this air advantage they've been abusing for such a long time. Interceptors being used as makeshift ASF now for Megameon. As over here on the eastern side, large groups of sniper bots and experimentals are massing. And Megameon seemingly due to collapse any moment now. Did the nuke launcher for Literal go down? I believe so. I don't see his nuke launcher anymore. Anti-nuke still intact. Don't know if anybody else on this team has a nuke launcher active. SCU's going down to the Ion Storm. A chicken came in and picked off a fat boy that was trying to move its way to the front. The chicken gonna pay for that with its life. Although stopping pressure up here in the north seemingly paramount for Team 1's chances to stabilize in this game, as they are seeming to have the same struggles that Team 2 has had on the eastern side. seems very difficult for these players to hold these positions. Strategic launch detected, this time going for the base of a Megameon, who is pretty much definitively going to die to this. He doesn't even move his comm. I don't think he's realized his anti-nuke is dead. He's going for an Awasa, but that is that's never going to finish. And that's going to make this mass differential huge. Team 2 probably about to fall immediately down another 200 mass per second. And going to be at a huge disadvantage. Novaxes coming online for Lorem Ipsum. Very naughty, very dirty strategy coming out from the Aeon, or from the UEF. Didn't watch the giant pretty explosion of the nukes, but it was a Seraphim nuke, so they were ugly anyways. Large army over here, and Awasa on the field dropping bombs to kill one Demolisher. As to the west, ooh, all of those Cougars, those may have been alive for a very long time. Those could have been very high vet Cougars being taken out very rapidly by that Awasa. Over on the eastern side, it's two chickens. One goes down for Soul Ripper, but this force has to defend this. The sniper bots dealing their damage and causing their toll, going down in droves to the chickens' weapons. But the sniper bot's gonna pick off the last of these chickens. This massive group of mobile shields is gonna help the Othams and anti-air, those lightning tanks, take down the Yathotas. Another chicken about to complete. Soul Ripper is a chicken assembly line, and he's gonna need as many as he can get to hold off this eastern flank, where Nova and Stone Elf have just been consistently, slowly steamrolling through this eastern side with some assistance from their team. Still, nobody on Team 1 going down. Ferv, you could argue, doesn't exist anymore. Although that argument would be invalid. He is still getting up a decent economy, and he is still trying to get back into this game and rebuild to a force. He's using Fong as a shield, and Fong doing his job admirably, trying to hold off Lorem Ipsum. Soul Ripper redirecting all of his forces to the east, whereas Lorem Ipsum going for Fat Boys and has quite the beefy Ravager line over here. No shielding here is very scary. That's a lot of mass generation and a very efficient setup for producing T3 units. Each of these Percivals only taking between 4 and 14 mass per second, most of them taking only, two of them taking 9, 3 of them taking 14, and 1 of them taking 4. Very cheap Percivals coming out onto the field. The way that works is it lowers the cost of production per second, but does not increase the overall time it takes to build. So overall, the Percivals are indeed cheaper. Those Percivals cost a much less than their unadjacencied counterparts, and it doesn't take up a mass extractor, which is a much less efficient, because the mass extractor can produce more mass per capita. 3 Novaxes now on the field for Lorem Ipsum, and it's starting to get dangerous. Fong has been chased down by Novaxes, and 3 Novaxes will go through 2 shields. A third shield about to pop online. Fong desperately needs that online right now. He's going to have to keep building shields, or does he have enough to deal with those 3 Novaxes? If Fong dies here, that could be huge. He is the highest rated player in the game, and it would be the first ejection for Team 1, would be a critical blow. His base would mostly intact, probably go over to Stone Dell for a literal. In fact, we can check who it would go to. It would go to literal. As overall, we look at this, and yes, he does go down to the Novaxes. And Lorem Ipsum going for a 4th Novax now. Over on the eastern side, Stone to Elf doing an admirable job. He is holding off the forces of both Nova and Stone to Elf. Soul Ripper doing his damnedest to keep his ally alive as he sees the Novaxes start to do their work. He has this large group of sniper bots. He's been relying on these for such a long time this game. He was one of the first players to adopt mass sniper bots, and he is still using them effectively. And he is still getting massive damage done. I'm sure some of these have veterancy from just killing off those chickens. And he is still producing quite a few of them as more chickens roll off the assembly lines. This chicken's still relatively healthy. Needs to walk away from the ion storms of his opposing dead cousins. Overall economy, Team 1 up by over 500 mass a second. They just need to make something happen. Stoned Elf! I apologize for that. Stoned Elf making a critical mistake. He's standing out in the open. He has T2, he has Nano, he has a lot of HP, but Novaxes will chew through 21,000 HP like it nothing. And it's going to be absolutely brutal. Going to be losing two of their higher rated players in quick succession as long as Lorem realizes what's going on. Stoned Elf still not realizing his comm is under deep threat as his mass extractors go down in mass around him. Maybe Lorem deciding killing off the mass extractors is more important. Awasa finishes up for Stoned Elf. Stoned Elf now instantly chunked down half of his... Chucked down! Chuck it down! That's a reference to one of my videos. Go figure it out. Tell me in the comments. Internet points to you if you tell me. As Stoned Elf loses over half his HP in a single volley and is now destined to die. The next Novax firing will bring him down to 0 HP, and that's going to be yet another death of Team 1 in a very short amount of time. They were very dominant in keeping their comms alive, but now it seems they're collapsing underneath the weight of these defense satellites, which have never in the history of man been used defensively. And the two Awasas that he had stopped. Their orders were stopped, and now they're placed in a position where Literal really needs to start moving them now. A lot of ASF out from Lorem Ipsum going to show up. Going to be able to kill off the very first Awasa without any kind of response. That Awasa is slated to die. I don't believe that Literal could stop this if he wanted to. The wreck not going to kill anything massive. Does leave a large reclaim field, or reclaim wreck. As over here to the west, we have large experimentals fighting each other. Fat Boy gonna go down to a GC momentarily. Or maybe not. Does manage to kill off this GC in time. Don't know if the second GC will be able to get there in time, but the Awasa could definitely do so, and he just won air control. Over on the eastern side, massive amounts of chickens walking their way through. As many units are about to go down to this Awasa. The shield of the Fat Boy flicks off with the Awasa bomb. Awasa up to 4 kills and already almost up to its first rank of veterancy. Showing you how efficient it is being. There are a few ASF out now for Soul Ripper, but you can't send these in piecemeal. You need to build up a one-passable amount of ASF and hope that you can kill it off, because Literal, despite losing his air grid a very long time ago, has had air control for a very long time. 4 chickens walking into a massive force. Make it 3, I guess. Sniper bot still on the flanks. A 4th chicken walking forward to try and help all of this out. 1 chicken goes down, and its Ion Storm can devastatingly affect its allies. Got to split those chickens right before death. The Ion Storm might be able to deal some damage onto the opposing chicken. It is still in range. That chicken gonna take massive damage to the Ion Storm. Nearly a third of its HP taken down by just the death of an opposing chicken. Lorem Ipsum with 4 defense satellites, gonna be a threat to be reckoned with. And I believe he has more on the way. A 5th now on the way. And this fight just going crazy for Team 2. Team 2 managing to just hold out a defensive line while also using standoff technology. This Awasa still getting huge value, forcing a change up to almost entirely Cougars being produced for Lorem Ipsum. Over here on the eastern side, SCU going down to the chickens. Awasa bomb coming in and taking out all of the forward production for Lorem Ipsum, that lack of shielding, he's kicking himself right now, I'm sure, as he loses such a strong production line. Literal being told he needs more shields. He's trying to assist in a shield. He does have shield on the comm, so he's quite tanky, but needs to move. He's taking so much damage. Shield on the comm evaporating damn near immediately. And down to 11,000 HP in almost a blink of an eye. And with a 5th Novax finishing up momentarily, that's only going to get worse. Very soon it's going to be very hard to out-shield those Novaxes. Awasa comes in for another bomb, this time dealing massive damage to the shield of that fat boy. Going down to 20,000 HP, but every time it gets a rank of veterancy, it's going to be much easier for him to keep that Awasa flying around and doing well. Literal trying to do the best he can, building up a lot of sniper bots, building up Othams. He does have his ally, Ferv, who could start producing a relatively large amount of units with his 700 mass economy. Ridiculous mass economy, actually. I think that's mostly reclaimed, though, now that I look at it. As over here to the east, triple chicken threat. Pushing up the northern side. Soul Ripper still trying to make this large land force work. And it does seem as though he might be able to, as Nova inheriting the base of Stoned Elf, trying to produce chickens of his own to protect this flank. And it seems as though Team 1 slowly collapsing, but on the western side could be getting some major territory. Lorem Ipsum running out of land units rapidly. That fat boy, the last kind of thing holding us together. Might want to go into mass firebasing because he needs to keep these Novaxes online. The Novax is getting massive damage done. T3 Air HQ going down again for Literal. Chicken finishing up, I believe, was for Soul Ripper there. Yep, and a chicken about to finish up for Nova, but it's up against 3 chickens on its own. Not going to be a very efficient fight. Chicken about to die to mass T2 PD, though. As there's just a ever-present steamrolling force. Another Awasa on the way, gonna go down. Team 2 needs to keep their eye on the Awasa count, needs to keep it underneath 2 at any given time. They can only really afford to have one of these giant death bombers floating around at any given time, otherwise you run into the threat of wreck bombing those Novaxes. A chicken almost gonna make it into the main base of Nova, but not quite gonna be able to. And the second chicken gonna meet much the same fate. This chicken right here getting a ton of value. Another air engagement going the way of Literal, but the Awasa goes down critically. But there's not enough on the ground. These Othams, not a huge Otham force, but enough, it would seem, to just push through this. There's nothing here to really stop it. Along with all of these Zooies showing up, could be devastating for Nova. Or not for Nova, for Lorem, who is probably going to set up a defensive line near these Novaxes or slightly ahead of them. The Novaxes have a power stall. Going to be huge. These Novaxes could get into the base and just destroy off Literal's main base. Instead of opting to go over here to the east, opting to kill off more power generators, make this power stall even more devastating now for Literal. Lorem getting a ton of value out of these satellites. Up to 5. I believe he has a 6th on the field. It's working its way up to join the other forces momentarily. These Novaxes getting a huge amount of value. That's going to be the thumbnail with the word Shameful display, at least once we see them firing. Lorem Ipsum, I believe, has sealed the game's fate for his team, but he has stooped down to the worst, most despicable tactics available to do so. The UEF Novaxes, absolutely disgraceful, if effective. Victory, but at the cost of your humanity as you use that absolutely busted unit to destroy your opponents. But down here in the south, we could see Otham start to equalize a little bit, but literal going down. I think that's the nail in the coffin, as Ferv and Nova going to be hard-pressed to come up with a victory here, as chickens have been roving through the back lines of the base of Nova for a while now. And while this might be able to hold on the ground momentarily, the Novax is going to be insurmountable pressure, and the game is going to be decided for Team 2. Thank you all for watching. This has been a great comeback. Sorry if the casting wasn't up to standard. Yet again, allergies make casting way more difficult than I would think. Simply talking gets my lungs and my nasal, my sinuses very upset. But we are going to continue with the mass casts for May. You all seem to very much so enjoy the increased content, and I know that you all say don't say sorry, it's free content, but I don't see it that way. A lot of people are paying for this content. We have the Patreons and channel members, and that support I appreciate greatly, and I really would appreciate you all considering that down below as we speed up the game and wait for those pretty explosions. We'll go to a cinematic shot of Ferv trying to hold out against the Novaxes. Actually, we'll go to a cinematic shot of Lorm's base. Maybe this will be the thumbnail with Shameful display. Either way, you all are beautiful. Thank you to the patrons, thank you to the channel members. Thank you to everybody who goes down and comments and interacts with the video. You all are beautiful. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!